Now, does anybody in this audience have a question for Elizabeth?
I'd like to know about your process from the research portion to writing your outline to day-to-day writing.
Okay, well, I'll tell you how it used to be. When I was an aspiring writer and an unpublished writer, I wrote every day. And I think that's what you absolutely have to do. I'm going to talk into my security. You absolutely have to do that. If nobody's waiting for your work, then you have to be doing it. Because I realized very early, no one was ever going to walk up the 4 flights of stairs in my crummy East Village apartment and knock on the door and say, we understand there's a very talented unpublished writer living here. And you know, we're here to give you your book deal, right? Like, I knew I had to do that. So that's how I wrote a lot in my early years. As my career and my work has evolved, writing has become a seasonal occupation for me. And I think of it, I grew up on a farm, so I think of it sort of in farm seasons. So there's the season for inspiration, which is kind of where I'm at right now, where like the ideas are kind of playing ping pong. And then there's the season for commitment, you know, and then comes the season for research, because everything I do is very heavily researched and all the preparation. And then comes the season for writing. And that's a very special season, and it's not all the time. And I'm able right now in my life to clear out chunks like that. So it might only be every 3 years, but it'll be 6 months where nothing else is on the calendar, and that's it. And everybody in my life knows that's it. And I very politely try to explain to them that they won't be seeing a lot of me. And I'm so terribly sorry, but I'm not going to be able to go to their goddaughter's christening probably. You know, like, there's just a lot of stuff that has to be put aside. Yeah.
I think we should go to the next question. Thank you so much for that.
Hi, and thank you for this, and thank you for your words of wisdom, both written and spoken. But I wonder, I've been working on a memoir for quite some time, and when you spoke about fighting your work and struggling with your work, one of my big struggles is, what will my family think? And I really want to move past that, finish this thing, and not care where, you know, I keep looking for a fictional idea to get away from this thing, but it wants to be born, and I know that, and
They're going to know who they are in your novel anyway, my dear.
Absolutely.
Might as well write a memoir.
Absolutely.
Put it out there.
All right, that's pretty much it.
Actually, sometimes they're even more angry in the novel because they think they're someone else, and then they're like, how could you, you know, it's like, that wasn't even you. It's tricky. It's a really tricky thing, and there are books I haven't written because I don't want to hurt people.
Right.
And so I might not be the best person to advise you, because I know there are memoirists who are a lot more brave than I am. You can't not care.
Well,
if
they're
you're
all
a caring
dying,
person,
and eventually they're all going to be gone, and nobody's going to care.
Oh, you can wait it out.
So I don't want to wait it out, because then I'll be gone. You know, so I got to.
You want to be like,
it.
yeah, Grandma, don't take those blood pressure pills anymore. You know. Isn't that terrible? I got to tell you, like, this is where the rubber meets the road here, but. I don't know a single writer who isn't waiting for somebody to die so that they can write, so that there's a story that, we're on like a permanent death watch with people. So, I don't know, don't let that stop you from finishing writing it. And then maybe you want to, like, you know, try it out on the more understanding members of the family. You might also be surprised.
I was just going to say,
people who you think will be furious are often very understanding, and people who you think will be very understanding are often furious.
Or
you have to be,
flattered.
memoirs odd like that.
Thank you for your question.
Good luck.
Trevor, let's have a question from this side.
Hi.
Hi, sweetheart. I met you.
How are you? I just wanted to see if you could talk a little bit about the difference between, you know, your work in terms of short stories and memoirs versus fiction, and how that process kind of comes to you, and how you kind of give it your attention and, you know, address it from your artistic soul.
I think it's interesting. I found that I'm unable to write fiction when I'm living drama. So it's a good sign that I'm writing fiction again. It means my life is quieted down. I can only focus on so much drama at once. And if I'm in it, then I don't have anything left over for imagining other worlds. So there's that difference that I've noted. I think memoir is sort of easier in one respect because it's essentially reporting. And I was a journalist for a long time, and I find reporting really easy. It's harder in that you have to sort of figure out how you're presenting yourself and others in a real way. Fiction is harder, but I use that word Cautiously, because it's also can be way more joyful and it's way more liberating. I had this, at the beginning of the novel, there's this moment where a fictitious character and a real character from history meet for the first time. Henry and Joseph Banks meet. And I was giggling like a schoolgirl when I was writing that because I had forgotten the liberties of fiction. I was like, it's like taking a Ken doll and a Godzilla doll and crashing them together. It's like, just because I said so, Henry is now in Joseph Banks' office. You know, like, there's, that's really, really thrilling and exciting.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
We'll take one more over here.
Okay.
Right.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself as a reader and how you've evolved, and how what you read influences your writing and what you're currently reading right now?
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, generally as a reader, it's really simple. I just wrote a 19th century novel. I read 19th century novels. So those are my people. Dickens, Eliot, Austen, Trollope, Henry James, the Brontes, that's my team. And if I could read nothing else for the rest of my life, I would just read them again and again and again and again. And their influence, I think, shows up in my fiction, not so much in my nonfiction. I don't think you would see it in my nonfiction, but you see it in my fiction. You're not winning a prize if you say that this novel feels Dickensian. And what am I reading?
Any contemporary authors at all?
Yeah, I mean, there's many that I like. I can never think of them at these moments, but here we go. I like Michael Chabon. I like the people who write the big daring things. I love Hilary Mantel. Wolf Hall, I think, is the best novel of the last 10, if not 20 years. I also love her earlier stuff, which is completely different and totally worth looking into, may I say. I love some of our living poets. Sharon Olds is somebody who's really important to me. My favorite poet, Jack Gilbert, just died last year, but his work is a real touchstone to me. And on the self-help side, I like me my Pema Chodron. I like my Buddhists. I like Jack Kornfield. That's my gang. Thank you.
Wait, should we go over to this side?
Sure. I am totally on the flaky, girly, arty train with you, and I noticed your really cute outfit as you walked out here. So I'm wondering, what does fashion, or what role does fashion play in your research and your writing, or just as a fan, as a girl, how do you work with that?
That's so cute. Okay, 2 nights ago, I did an event in California with a woman who is a writer who I really, really, really admire, named Kelly Corrigan. Wrote a book called The Middle Place that was a bestseller. And we had such a good time. We had met at the Book Expo of America last summer. And we had this really great eye-to-eye, you're a serious woman, I'm a serious woman, you're a literary person, I'm a literary person conversation, just firing at all cylinders. And all of a sudden I looked down and I was like, holy shit, what are those shoes? I just completely freaked out. She's like, they're Tory Burch. I'm like, where'd you get them? They were crazy. They had all these beads on them and they were 4 inches high. And it was like our sort of fake serious masks came off and this other, and at the end of our event, she presented me with those shoes because we have the same size feet. Cool. It was so great. And I was like, see, you can be a serious woman and also kind of care about other people's shoes.
Notice the shoes, by the way. Cute, no?
Yeah, we're not supposed to care about that kind of stuff, but I think it is a kind of expression as well. Thumbs up. And it's very funny because as you were stepping up, I was about to say, that is a great jacket. And then I thought that would be really shallow, but that is a great jacket.
Thank you. Should we go this side?
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi.
My name is Patricia. I'm from Brazil as well.
Oh,
and we
oi,
have a lot of
querida.
fans there. Oi, querida. And my question is, you always say about finding equilibrium between your worldly pleasures and spiritual life, and I would like to know first if that's possible, and second, if you found it.
No, I haven't found it. It's probably possible. I mean, I find it every once in a while. I got to tell you, the question was about finding equilibrium between pleasure and a spiritual life. That's kind of what I set out to do in Eat, Pray, Love, and it is what I kind of set out to do all the time. I got to tell you, I am now a little bit anti the word balance. It's a word that I feel like is starting to become a weapon that women use against themselves. Another thing that we haven't achieved. And I see it everywhere, and it's very aspirational. It's in every interview in every women's magazine. It's in every page of every issue of every women's magazine. And I feel like it's starting to be a mean word for us, because all it does is make you feel bad that you haven't gotten it. And it also sort of sets up this idea that there are people who have, you know?
Well, I've got it.
Right? First of all, I don't even want to be friends with that person. Because they're probably an asshole, you know? Like, who is that? Like, I don't even know who that is. That's not anybody I know, you know? And so I feel like, I don't know, I feel like self-forgiveness is a lot more important than the constant striving for something that I'm not even sure is entirely possible. Also, I think that balance, you know, I went to a liberal arts college, so I took a circus class once. Balance, you know, and I took a circus class, I learned how to walk on a tightrope, and I remember the guy saying, breaking down the word equilibrium, you know, equal freedom. It means the equal freedom to fall in any direction. And so what happens is that oftentimes you do. You know, because you're like, and a point of balance is just that one moment where you don't happen to be falling at that moment, you know, and that's a really great thing. And when you're in that moment, that's fantastic. But the next moment, you topple over, right? And then you get back and you get it again. And then you topple over and then you get back and you get it again. And you topple over and you get it back. And that process and learning to sort of be okay with the reality of that is, I think, better for us than just constantly being fixated on holding that. Because you hold that and then the ground under you shifts, right? And so you fall and then you get back and the ground shifts again. We live in a really it's a slippery proposition being a person. You know, just when you think you got it, it's like, whoa, earthquake, you know? So I think I've just gotten better at kind of being cool with that.
Yeah.
So thanks for your question, sweetheart.
Good question. Should go this way?
Thanks. Hi there.
Hello.
This is in the same vein as like the struggle thing that you were mentioning with your characters, but I'm just really wondering if you ever experience a resistance and how you manage that.
I experience resistance all the time. Let me get that straight. All the time. And creatively, I experience it all the time. I've just done it long enough that I know what it is, and I know what it isn't. And I actually think that what helped me a lot creatively was all that meditation that I don't do anymore. All that meditation.
I was going to ask you that. Yeah, no more. Oh,
I mean,
so
when I say I don't do it, what I mean is I make all kinds of promises that I'm going to do it. And I do it for like 2 days, and then I don't do it for like 2 months. But you should do it. I hope you are all.
because you're balanced.
Because you have the balance, you see.
Right.
So I'm still striving on that. So in the same way that it took me 4 months in silence and meditation in India to finally figure out that the demons that I had been fighting in my mind, that horrible neighborhood you would never want to walk alone in at night that is my mind, those demons and villains and, you know, hostage takers who live in my mind are not monsters, they're just toddlers. It really took me a long time to figure that out. And once I realized that, I was like, oh my God, they're toddler orphans. You know, they're pathetic street urchins. Like I thought they were like horrible gangs, but they're just like scared little tiny critters who only need reassurance to go quiet. You know, and my fighting them, fight a toddler, see what happens, right? Like my fighting them only made them more enraged, more scared, more kicky, more fierce, more bitey, more grabby, more desperate, more needy, you know? And when I got to that point, I wrote about that in Meet Pre-Love, when I got to that point where I was like, just come into my heart, you're all welcome, I'm not gonna kick any of you out of this house. That's what they're afraid of, they're just afraid they're gonna get kicked out of the house. You're never going back to the orphanage. Like, you're all coming with me. I have enough love for all of you. I know you're all part of me. And the other metaphor I often use is it's the big minivan of our minds. They're never getting out. You know what I mean?
Just in there.
Like, the more you try to throw them out of the minivan, the uglier that drive gets, you know? They will not be leaving the minivan. Every like monster, demon, orphan in your head is going to be with you your whole life. It's just that I've realized there's this higher person, this wiser, calmer, more loving person of great capacity who's driving that minivan. And what I just do is I just turn around and say, like, Mommy's driving, you know? And I do that when I'm writing because they come up and they tell me that that I'm washed up. They tell me that I'm a fraud. They tell me that I'm a failure. They tell me that I'm done. They tell me that I was never any good. They tell me that it was a fluke. Like, I mean, they tell me all that stuff that they tell all of us. And I just say to them, thank you. I really appreciate your contribution. I know that your job is to disrupt. I don't really know why that's your job, but apparently that's your job. You're doing a great job. You're doing it great. But mommy's driving. And you don't get to drive this car. Because you drove this car long enough and you drove it so poorly. You like drove us off the road. Somebody said, you don't get to drive. Mommy's driving. And mommy's life is short. I live in her human time. And there are things she wants to get done before she dies. So why don't you guys just go play video games and let me work? And it seems to work, you know? So there's like a gentleness that's required to deal with that. And I feel like that's the mistake that the great battling Norman Mailers of the world made, was like coming up bloody against those things isn't doing you any good, you know? So
Loving kindness.
loving kindness.
I love that.
I don't always succeed at it, but I try.
Another one over here.
Hi, I just want to quickly make a comment before my question. My husband, who's 18 years older than I am, and who thought Eat, Pray, Love was a little bit of a woman's book. Was,
What? Eat, Pray, Love, a woman's book?
He was
Radical.
He was encouraged by me to listen to Eat, Pray, Love, read by you, on a little trip from New Jersey to Savannah, and he loved it.
Oh, thank you.
He was converted.
I know a lot of men who've had that book read to them in bed by their wives. It's nice that you let them have the audio tape.
You read it too. I'm just really interested in how your writing process in Eat, Pray, Love, because you had all these little tales and they're all different, and how you pieced them together and how you did like the flashbacks, but they're interwoven. How you did that, because it's fascinating, I think.
The structuring of it, I didn't know how to do that till I had the realization to write it like the Japamala beads that I write about. And for those of you who haven't read Eat, Pray, Love, I'm looking at all the men in the audience now. The book is structured around the model of a Japamala rosary bead, which is something they use in India for meditation, which is a bead that it's a string of beads that always has 108 beads on it. And I was using one a lot when I was in India, so I was really aware of that number. And then I realized it's divided into threes very easily, into 36. And I just thought, I want this book to be balanced even in its telling. So I'm going to make each section of the book, Italy, India, and Indonesia, 36 chapters. And those chapters can be a paragraph long, or they can be several pages long. And once I had that, it was kind of paint by numbers, fill in the blanks. I came home with thousands of pages of notes. And I went to an artist residency, and I only read through them once. And I just said, this is going to be a huge act of trust. I'm not going to overthink this. I'm going to read through this, and the anecdotes that I think are good, I'm going to circle, and the rest of it I'm never going to look at again ever. And I thought the faster I do that, the purer this is going to be. Because the more I double think, triple think, quadruple think, the messier this is going to get. So let's just do it. So I just went through like yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, and then I took all those pieces that I liked, and I built the book out of that.
Great. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Another question over here.
Hi Liz, how are you?
Do you guys have a question together?
Well, we kind of wanted to...
Are you going to sing a duet? I'm trying to figure out
I can. If you're feeling sad and lonely. Oh gosh, she left me. I'm supposed to be moral support up here.
Oh,
She left me.
I was curious about the arrangement, the collaboration.
Actually, both of us we're reporters in Litchfield County.
Oh, hello, Litchfield County.
Cool.
Hometown.
Nice.
So, but my question was, I'm considering writing a novel. I'm not sure if I'm going to do fiction or if I'm going to do a memoir. What are some advice you can relay to me about thinking about?
If I asked you right now, which one would be more interesting, fiction or nonfiction, what would you say?
Nonfiction.
Well, then you should probably write that one.
Okay.
And when I say interesting, I don't mean for the reader, I mean for the writer.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you're gonna have to entertain yourself while you're doing this, and so I guess that's what you should do. Do it. Women especially have a problem, I think, holding themselves back and holding their work back because they don't think that what they have to say is important. They think somebody else already said it better. It's a familiar story.
Oh.
Nobody's ever going to buy it.
Elmo's
Have I left out any? I'm going to be judged. I'm going to be criticized. I'm not good enough. And like, just add your own things. And I can't urge you strongly enough to push against that. Because first of all, no one ever read your version of that story, whatever that story is, which I guarantee you is different from other people's. No one's ever read your voice. And also, any talent that you have that you don't use becomes a burden on your life, and it will haunt you. And if you have gifts that you're not using, and you have stories that you're not telling, they will weigh on you so heavily that it will cause you pain and suffering, and I don't want that for you. So open up to it, and then put it out there in the world. And look for
Thank you. Part two. Now I did think of something. So I write all damn day, but I'm not writing a thing for myself. I'm writing for my readers. That's what I'm doing. I'm writing stuff on Facebook. I'm writing things on Twitter, and I'm writing these little snippets for all my readers. At the end of the day, I don't want to write for myself. I don't, but I do. You feel me? How can I tell myself, shut the fuck up and write?
Well, I don't think that you necessarily have to quit your job.
Oh, that's not an option.
You know, so if you believe that it's impossible for you to write because you're also writing, I do not believe that that is the reason that you're not writing.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm calling you out on that. Red, I'm calling you out.
Go ahead.
Because a lot, you know, it's been shown that that can be done. You know, and you may have to dedicate. You may have to like start being very disciplined about dedicating certain hours of the day or certain days of the week to that work. Like really committing to that. Sundays are for this. Twitter goes off, Facebook goes off, phone goes off, Breaking Bad goes off, everything goes, you know, and allowing yourself that, and believing that that's possible. It's so possible. Guys, Toni Morrison was an editor at Random House. So not only did she have a full-time job and she was a single mother, but she was reading other people's manuscripts and editing other people. This is beyond me. I can't even imagine that. For forever. Like so she would spend 8-10 hours a day reading other people's manuscripts. And then she decided, I guess, that she didn't want to go to her grave burdened by what she had not said. And she started getting up at 4:30 in the morning to work on her book before she went to work. So that her work got the worst part of her brain. You know what I mean? Like you're right now dedicating your best energies to your job. Slack, you know? Like set your alarm for an hour earlier, go to bed an hour earlier, and do the work in the morning. She's like, that's never gonna happen.
I know, I'm already thinking how much coffee I'm gonna be buying. I'm like, all right, I can do this.
But you know what, I had a yoga teacher once who said to me, what are you willing to give up to have what you really want?
Yeah, I got you.
You know?
Thank you.
And for me, that was staying up past 9 o'clock at night, which I don't do unless I'm on book tour. Because I finally did the math that there's no way I'm ever going to be a book writer if I go to bed late. It just isn't going to happen. And so all kinds of things got lost in that. A whole bunch of socializing, a whole bunch of movies I want to see, a whole bunch of like good cheer and humanity, and I'm in bed at 9 o'clock. And I gave that up because what I really want is to be a writer.
It's hard.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi.
Hi.
I'm Allison. We met earlier.
Yes, we did.
I have 2 questions for you. The first is, in describing your practice of writing, I'm almost thinking of an artist at a painting. Things come to you and it's in you, it's in your soul. So what I'm wondering is, as a child, did you really know you had this passion and desire to write? Is this almost like a gift? I mean, if you believe in a God, whatever, it's really, seems like it was really a gift that you're born with.
Do you guys know what talent means, the word?
Yeah.
I mean, but where it comes from? Your talent is your payment. In Roman army, when you got paid, you got your talent. Everybody gets paid something. You know, it's your bag of silver. Everyone is given one.
Right. It's just finding what
You know,
it
and
is.
it's also, it's figuring out what it is, and it's also figuring out how you're going to spend it. You can blow it on hookers and cocaine,
Yeah.
you know, or you can invest it in doing beautiful work, or you can bury it in the garden and never use it because you're afraid of it, or you can give it to people who don't deserve it because all you know how to do is leak things that are good to people who are bad. You know, there's all kinds of stuff that you can do with the payment that you were given, the talent that you were given. I knew I had this thing because I could tell, and I could also tell because of all the stuff I wasn't good at. You know, and I'm not being facetious, but I'm not like, you know, I took piano lessons for 9 years. You put me in front of a piano, I can play you literally nothing. You know, all my parents' money was wasted on that. I took gymnastics forever. I am not a gymnast. I am not a dancer. I am not a singer. I am not a visual artist. And it is not because I was not exposed to these things. Right. I am not scientific. I am not mathematical. I am not particularly punctual. I am not a good surfer. Like, you know, just add to it.
Yeah.
This thing, for some reason, from a very early age, when I did it, people drew near. You know?
And you knew it.
And on the playground, even before I could read and write, kids wanted me to make up the story that we were going to play. You know? And that's been it. And so I invested everything in that. And I'm not going to have you a second question because I want these people to get their question. But thank you so much.
Thank you. Hi, Elizabeth. I thank you for Alma and Prudence and Henry. Really cool.
Thank you.
Will you be reading this for an audio?
I didn't read it. I read Eat, Pray, Love, and I read Committed. I don't read my fiction because I'm not a good enough actor, and I feel like those books this book in particular needed an actress because it's got so many different voices, so many different accents, so many different scenes, and I don't know if anyone has heard it yet, but Juliet Stevenson, the great British stage actress, has read it already. Wonderful. And it's already available. And actually just today on Salon.com, Laura Miller wrote a review of the audiobook saying it's spectacular. Because Juliet Stevenson, for those of you who don't know her, she read all the Jane Austen books, she read all the George Eliot books, she's read all the Bronte stuff. And her voice was the voice in my head when I was writing this book. And I was lucky enough to get her. So yeah. Let's take our last, I don't want to send this person away from the microphone. So.
Hello, Elizabeth. You spoke of having note cards and then being able to write over a period of 4 months, I think you said. But going back to those note cards and the process, in reading the book, there were so many revelations and sudden twists. I know you spoke of Alma coming to you, and how did the story come to you?
The story comes in the research. That's how, and I think part of the reason I suffered in my 20s as a writer, especially as a writer of fiction, is I did not know how to help myself by preparation. When I think of myself in my 20s sitting down to write fiction, it was like this. Liz sits down, opens up a notebook and is like, my book. Gonna write a book by Elizabeth Gilbert, page one of my book. You know, and I had given myself nothing. I mean, it was like I was going to the Olympics, you know, after having spent like 10 years watching TV. Like I had nothing, you know? And so of course I suffered. Because of course I don't know what this thing is, you know? And so I've learned over time, and I think journalism taught me that, and writing nonfiction taught me that the story comes to you in the preparation for the story. And so all those 3 years of writing and research and taking notes, the characters came through me through other real characters in life. So I'm reading like thousands of Victorian era letters, and I'm starting to hear voices, and I'm starting to hear pieces of people. Oh, Prudence could be like that. Oh, when Hanukkah is stern, it's because she's sort of like this person from this 18th century journal that I read who complains about how she doesn't understand why people celebrate New Year's Eve because the New Year comes whether you celebrate it or not, right? Like, that's a wonderful little detail. This is a wonderful little detail. This could be Henry. Here's, you know, and you start to build it, and those note cards just build and build and build. And then you do the outline. And so for me, the difference in the way I write now and the way I wrote when I was 22 is that when I was 22, it's like I walked into a big house that was fully furnished, a bunch of kids lived in, and I was like, I'm gonna paint the inside of this house. You know, opened up a can of paint and started painting a wall, and then I'm like, oh, there's a picture here. Oh, there's a couch here. Oh, there's somebody's toys are here. Oh, but nobody's cleaned. You know, and now when I do it, that house is ready to be painted when I get to work writing. Like, all the furniture's been moved out, all the windows have been taped, all the walls have been sanded down, you know, and all I have to do now is roll the paint in large strokes. And that's how it works for me. I would no more punish myself by sitting down to write a book without extensive preparation than I would run a marathon now. So thank you all so much for your. Thank you.